The early Winx seasons are often remembered for how dark they can be, but the truth is they have nothing on the comics. The Winx comics were a whole other world of delightful, colourful, aesthetic adventures, more character-driven, grounded and realistic, sometimes focusing on real-world issues for the benefit of their then preteen and teen audiences. But it's exactly the combination of these factors that produced such dark and twisted stories at times, and we're going to be looking at 5 of those today. Worth noting is that the Winx comics have their own self-contained canon, so don't be surprised at differences from the lore of the show, such as the Trix sisters being actual biological sisters, or Tecna being the Princess of Titania. Before we start, I would like for you to know 3 out of 5 of these moments deal with the girls being taken advantage of or misled in a relationship or seduction-related context. One of these stories involves someone putting a potion in someone's drink to make them more suggestible, and one is about use and dependence. These stories deal with genuinely upsetting subject matter, so please proceed with that in mind. Number 1. Ulterior Motives. The Black Comet is issue 53 of the Winx comics, and one of my absolute favorites, not in the least for its surprisingly heavy content. Ephirius is a technologically underdeveloped planet of the magical dimension, on the verge of a near-apocalyptic meteor strike. Tecna's kingdom, Titania, is offering aid to the planet in the form of missiles to break the meteor down before impact. It is chaos on the planet as people believe it's the end of their world, so King Cryos thinks that it's important that Tecna go and stay on Ephirius until the crisis is over, as her public appearance as a princess would reassure people that everything is under control. Of course, the Winx too come along. The president of Ephirius welcomes the Winx and the specialists who are here to help the Titanian technicians installing the launcher. The Winx do their best to appear calm and relaxed for the benefit of the public. Tecna gives an interview and a tour of the launcher to a news group, describing the machine in detail, once again to help reassure the panicked populace. Joel, the charismatic interviewer, thanks Tecna profusely and parts with a kiss on her hand. Later in the day, Tecna receives a beautiful necklace, a token of Joel's gratitude that causes tension between her and Timmy. The next morning, the Winx wake up to the terrible news that a key piece of the launcher's computer has been stolen, and there is a ransom demand asking for Tecna to deliver the money. The president believes that there is no time to mess around. They must give them what they want and recover the piece as soon as possible. Just as Tecna is about to leave to deliver the money, to her surprise, Timmy suggests that she wear Joel's necklace. At the drop-off point, something is wrong. Suddenly, a van materializes and sweeps Tecna away. It's the thieves, and they brought along a wizard to immobilize her. They have no intention of returning the part and carry her off to a remote warehouse in the countryside. See, not long before, the planet Ephirius had deposed of their dictator, Arsenius, and he intends to let the meteor strike. In the ensuing chaos, he and his loyal supporters will re-seize power, and Tecna is now an important hostage for their new regime. To Tecna's horror, Joel is also there. His news report was just an excuse to get to know the launcher and its important components. Tecna rages at him, but he mockingly points out that she is still wearing his necklace. Trapped and immobilized, Tecna is left alone in her cell to think. She remembers that Timmy had insisted she wear the necklace, and it looks like he has made some interesting alterations to it. With a click, the butterfly charm comes alive and wears off to find Timmy. It has been recording everything. The Winx know now where Tecna is. Their rescue operation goes well, Aisha punches the dictator, and they recover Tecna and the missing part. Just in time, the missile is able to launch and the meteor shatters into 1,000 pieces. It's a beautiful starfall over Ephirius, and enough wishes to go around for everyone. Every time I tell people about this comic, they don't believe me that it's a Winx story. The idea that this show that's about fairies and magic and fashion did a story about a dictator trying to retake power through whatever means possible, it's a little hard for people to wrap their head around, I guess. The depiction of the politics of this situation in this story is fairly mature, I think, whether it is the tension of trying to keep up this image that everything is under control so that people won't be rioting in the streets, or the idea that there are still people who secretly support this dictator who has been removed from power, and they are willing to profit from a terrible situation. Personally, I think the darkest aspect of this story is the humiliation of Tecna. The guilt and shame of having potentially thrown this planet and its people into grave danger just because you were charmed by this manipulator. Loss of self. A key divergence in the canon of the comics from that of the show is that the Trix girls are allowed to remain as students at Cloud Tower and have adventures with the Winx well into the Believix era. At the same time, the comics do acknowledge the major events of the show, such as the Trix's attempted takeover of Magix, or Lord Darkar's terrors. So to allow for this, there is a major deviation from the plot of the show in issue 20, with some pretty dark implications. Darkar has been defeated, but the specialists are still touring the underground caverns to round up remaining monsters who survived the cave-in at the fortress. What they do not realize, though, is that the Trix too are inhabiting those cave systems, weakened and trying to avoid getting caught. They have fallen so low, and are resentful at the prospect of living forevermore in hiding. But what if there were a solution? From the cave-in, Icy has managed to rescue an ancient tome detailing a potion which can make the drinker completely lose their memory. What if everyone in Magix were to forget everything that happened? Then surely the Trix could reintegrate and start anew. The Trix girls kidnap 2 Cloud Tower witches, and Icy and Stormy take on their appearances to enter the school. All the dark ingredients they require are kept in the school storerooms, more than enough to make potion for the whole city. Back in Magix, something weird is up. People keep forgetting things they've known their whole lives, each other's names even. At Althea, professors are forgetting their own subjects. The more windy it is, the worse it seems to get. The Winx girls catch on that something is up. Together with their pixies, they follow the evil breeze back to the mountains to reveal its source. A massive cauldron full of potions sits in the cave in front of a magical fan. And that's not all. The Trix mount an attack on the Winx girls, determined that this time they will not be beaten. In the ensuing fight, a stray spell hits the cauldron. The Winx fly out of the way of the spilling potion, but the Trix are caught in it. Having almost drowned in the concoction means that the effects of the potion are permanent. They have forgotten almost everything. The council of the schools decides that it would be inappropriate to punish them now, since they do not even remember their crimes. Instead, they will be allowed to return to school under careful supervision. In the following issues, the Trix return to Magix society, but whilst they've forgotten what they did, nobody else has. They cannot understand why they are being treated as outcasts, and it once again sets them down an evil path. This is kind of an unexpectedly twisted way they took this storyline. Even in this issue, characters remark that an almost total loss of identity and personal history isn't proportionate to the Trix's crimes. The opening panels of issue 23 are almost heartbreaking, especially for anyone who has experienced being ostracized or spurned. For once, it feels like the Winx are the ones being cruel to the Trix. The next bunch of stories, however, take dark to a different level. A Wicked Affair. Darko the Black is the childhood friend of the Trix sisters from the Ice Kingdom where they all grew up. Icy is infatuated with him, but Darko does not take her seriously, instead enjoying the girls fighting for his attention. Bloom, who is waitressing at the White Horse Bar in Magix, has the misfortune to draw the attentions of Darko and his devilish bunch. Darko makes a bet with his friends that he can seduce Bloom within a day. But whilst the others are not listening, Icy gives him a warning. Bloom is a very powerful fairy, and she is already with a prince. She will not be easy to impress. Eager to please him, Icy offers him a solution to win the bet, a powerful love potion. The next day, a party is being given at the White Horse. Darko convinces Bloom to step aside and offers her refreshment. Unbeknownst to Bloom, he has put the potion into her drink. The effect is immediate, and Bloom has become completely malleable. Darko leads her out of the bar and into his car, to the cheering and jeering of his friends. Sky has noticed what is going on and gives chase to them on his motorcycle. Darko's reckless driving causes an accident, and Sky and Bloom are both hospitalized. At the hospital, Bloom wakes up feeling shame and confusion over what has happened. The doctor tells her it was dangerous to experiment with such compounds. Whilst Bloom pleads innocence, she hasn't willfully taken anything, but he doesn't believe her. Bloom and Stella head to the bar to try to find camera footage to prove their theory that Bloom was potioned. But they find the security tapes missing and the guard unconscious. At least now, Bloom can be sure that something had happened, but there are no consequences they can bring to Darko's door. As the girls are leaving, it is revealed that it was in fact Icy who stole the tapes. With this tape in her hands, Darko now has no choice but to take her seriously. Some comic stories are fun in-universe adventures, and some, including the last 3 on this list, are written clearly with the intention of instructing their audience about a real issue, which is fair enough and shows that the creators weren't just trying to sell a product, but also wanted to be of value to their readership. The problem with this story is that coming to it as an adult, it's just upsetting. I'm not even sure there is a lesson to be learned here. Bloom blames herself for getting caught up in all this. It's frustrating that there are no real consequences, even in this fictional scenario, for what Darko does. And from Icy, this is a truly villainous move on a whole new level. The Winx universe is so magical and fantastical that I really enjoyed the grounding moments of the comics, like the girls having part-time jobs, watching the news, or studying for exams. But I'm not sure I want my stories to be this realistic. Unfortunate implications. Temptations is about Musa meeting a boy in an online chat room. Her relationship with Riven has been especially strained of recent, and she pours her woes out to Tristan, who himself has just come out of a similar situation, or so he claims. Musa feels acknowledged by Tristan, and slowly their conversations expand onto other topics. Compared to how well even this stranger on the internet treats her, Riven's treatment of her is becoming intolerable, and finally she demands that they break up. Finally free, Musa decides to meet with Tristan in person to get to know each other better. But on reaching their rendezvous point, it becomes obvious that Tristan never existed. These men have lured her here under false pretenses. They tie her up with rope, surely not a real obstacle to her transforming, at least the people who kidnapped Tekna brought a wizard, and shove her into the back of a van. After the ensuing car chase, Musa is rescued by Riven and the police. It turns out that the reason Riven had been more difficult to get a hold of in recent weeks was that he was working with the police to infiltrate a trafficking ring kidnapping fairies and witches for their magic. What's especially dark about this story isn't so much the grooming or trafficking aspects, but the narrative's unfortunate implications. The Winx comics of this run were trying to confront important issues for their preteen and young teen audiences, like bullying, addiction, and internet danger, but Temptations makes the fatal mistake. As in the show, Riven treats Musa poorly in the comics, so it's a relief to see Musa in this story finally tell Riven what we've all been thinking. And then it's a massive slap in the face for it to end the way it does, with the big policeman telling her how lucky she is that Riven was there to swoop in and rescue her. Basically, what is supposed to be a story about internet stranger danger turns into a story about punishing Musa for daring to spy past her abusive boyfriend. It was a mistake to situate this storyline within a love story, especially that of Musa and Riven. It gets in the way of the actual message with some pretty ugly implications. There's a misogynistic undercurrent to it, and it feels intentional because the issue is called Temptations, like Musa was tempted and she shouldn't have been looking outside her toxic relationship in the first place. To be fair though, there is actually a section of this story where the Winx are talking about Musa and Riven and relationships in general, and Stella sort of verbalizes what the audience is thinking about how Riven doesn't deserve Musa, And Bloom makes this grand independence speech about how it's really important for women to have other streams of income so that no man can own them and they don't get stuck in bad situations. That section is unexpected and delightful. However, I don't think it's enough to negate the overall negative effect of this story, and therefore the criticism. Finally, the one you've all been waiting for, Infernal Concoction. This one is forever etched into my memory. Infernal Concoction stars the witches of Cloud Tower and is written pretty obviously as an allegory for stimulants and addiction. It's exam season at Cloud Tower, and Icy has found a recipe for a magic sweet that improves your energy, efficiency, and most importantly, memory. Mistura Infernalis. The Tricks begin to produce large quantities of this magic sweet, but having doubts about its safety and side effects, they sell the sweets to other witches in exchange for help during the exams. The story stars Lucrezia, Icy's first test subject. Having success with the sweet, she continues to take it outside of school hours, but slowly the side effects begin to creep in. The Tricks keep raising the price for the sweet, and so Lucrezia, low on funds, begins to trade away her jewelry for it. The sheer desperation that is conveyed on Lucrezia's face in this one panel forever haunts me. Bloom, who is waitressing, overhears a witch talking about how the come down is horrible after the high of the sweet, and the other witch tells her, why don't you just take another? Eventually, the Tricks themselves take the sweet, thinking that one won't hurt them. But their bodies react especially badly to the concoction, and the Tricks get stuck in an enchanted coma. In their dreamscape, Mistura Infernalis manifests itself as an innocent little girl offering a sweet, who is secretly a horrifying demonic creature. This is one of the best written Winx comics, and compared to others, is fantastic at handling its subject matter. The way it details the initial high and success that the girls are having with this sweet, and the fun that they are having, and then slowly, the sinister side effects creeping in, the girls taking more and more of the sweet to compensate for the side effects, and even beginning to trade away their possessions so that they can keep taking it. It's also sinister and well done. Since childhood, I've always really enjoyed visual depictions of someone's psychological landscape, hence episodes 22 and 16 of season 1 being some of my favorites. And so as a child, I read and reread this comic for those later scenes of the Winx trying to rescue the Tricks in this dream world. But also in the process, its bigger message was embedded in me. No wonder that this is one of the best remembered Winx comics. It's sort of weird to look back at these as the stories that I grew up with. Often, when the Winx comics go dark, it's because they're dealing with real-world issues to varying degrees of success, as we've established. Nevertheless, it kind of feels like having your innocence stolen too early. Although to be fair, as a child, often I think I could not sense the twistedness of these stories for the colour and vibrancy of the art. I only figured out their subject matter later. But do not let this create a misimpression. There are also plenty of well-written, delightful, untraumatic adventures within the comics. Even in these issues, there is fun to be had. At the very least, perhaps it will help people consider the comics as their own entity worthy of attention and discussion. I hope you did enjoy that, if that is the word to use in this case. If you are interested in more, be on the lookout for part 2, where we are once again going to be looking at a combination of intentionally dark and dark by implication storylines from the comics. But next up, some Barbie, I think. I'll see you next time. Bye!